morning, fifth grade. This is Miss J, and happy Friday. Today is Friday, April 10th. And before we get started, make sure you have scratch paper in front of you and a pencil, and you also have this page open in a separate tab. Also, make sure that you've completed this entire page before we get started. Then come back so we can go over your work. Now we're ready to start. Miss Mateo ran 4/9 of a mile on Monday, 7/9 of a mile on Tuesday, 9/9 of a mile on Wednesday, and 3/9 of a mile on Thursday. How many miles did she run that week? Solve using a model. So here, for a problem like this, we know that we're going to be using addition. Right? It's asking how many miles did she run in a week? That's the total. And we know the amount of miles she ran on each day, so we're just going to add that up together. Now my bar model represents that. So I drew a bar model representing 4/9, then 7/9, then 9/9, and then 3/9. Now I can add up my miles just by looking at this bar model. Let's start with our wholes. I know that if I have 9/9, that's going to be equivalent to a whole. Now I'm going to count another 9/9 to see if I can make another whole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that is equivalent to another whole. Now I'm going to count what I have left over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5/9 left over. Then I'm going to add that all up together, and I'm going to get 2 and 5/9. Miss Washburn ate 1 1/5 of a cake, and Miss Sparks ate 2 2/5 of the cake. How much pie did they eat together? So we notice that our denominators are the same, so we can just add across. Add our wholes. 1 plus 3 is 3. 1 plus 2 is 3. 1/5 plus 2/5 equals 3/5. So in total, we get 3 3/5. Now we're going to add fractions. We're going to find the sum of each fraction. So if we look at our denominators, we notice that they are unlike units. So we have to create like units. How do we do that? We create an equivalent fraction. So I know that 2 and 3 have a common multiple of 6. So I will just multiply them together and get my denominator. So the same thing I did to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. I'm going to multiply 1 times 3. It's going to get me 3. And then 2 times 2, which equals 4. 3 plus 4 is 7. And then my denominator stays the same. Oh, but we have an FGTO, so we have to turn it into a mixed number. I know that 6 goes into 7 once. My denominator stays the same. And then I'm going to have 1 left over. So my answer is 1 and 1/6. I want you to make sure that you're using this strategy to do the rest of the problems. Pause here and check over your work and make sure that you haven't made any mistakes. If you have, just go ahead and revise them. So now we're going to compare the decimals using the stacking method. What is the stacking method? That's right. It's when we stack our decimal points on top of one another. It's when we are stacking our decimal point, beginning with the largest decimal point and comparing our numbers by lining up our decimals. For example, and in this case, we're trying to figure out which is the greater decimal, so we may not know right away which the greater decimal is. That's why we use this method to help us. So we've lined up our decimal points, and now we can compare place values. So in our ones place, they're equal. They're both 5. And in our tenths place, we can compare the digits. 6 is greater than 4. So we know that 5.6 tenths is the greater decimal. Now go ahead and check your work. Remember, it's really important to use the strategies that you're being asked to use so that you'll be able to practice them. Our next problem asks or says you can only add or subtract like units. Change each unit to a common unit in order to solve. So we have 17 smartphones, 2 computers, and 3 iPads. Notice that they have different units, so we cannot subtract until we create like units. Think of a category that all of these units can go under. You guessed it, electronics. That's something that they can all be called. Now that we have our unit, electronics, now we can subtract. 17 minus 2 equals 15. 15 minus 3 equals 12. So we have 12 electronics. We have 12 egg cartons minus 5 eggs. Note that 1 carton equals 12 eggs. And we have 12 egg cartons here. But egg cartons and eggs, those are two different units. What's a unit that egg cartons and eggs can have in common? Of course, eggs. So now that we have our unit, eggs, now we can do our math. So we have to figure out how many eggs are in the 12 egg cartons. What operation could we use to figure this out? You got it, multiplication. So 12 times 12 equals 144. 144 minus 5 equals 139. So we have 139 eggs. Go ahead and check the rest of your work. You must show work with a table and a number sentence. So if we have 2.5 meters plus 500 centimeters, we have to convert one of our units. So again, our problem asks us to use a table and a number sentence. So I've drawn my table and my number sentence. I know that 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. So with that information, I can fill in my table. 2.5 meters multiplied by 100 is going to get me 250 centimeters. So now I can add 250 plus 500 equals 750 centimeters. So I have that highlighted here. Now, if I do another table from centimeters to meters, I know that I would be dividing 500 by 100. And that would get me 5. So then I'd be able to add 2.5 meters plus 5 meters, and that would get me 2.7 meters. Or sorry, 7.5 meters. I want you to use the same strategy to complete the rest of the conversions. Go ahead and check your work. Now it's time for me to tell you the secret code. Our secret code for today's math review is Roblox. ROBLOX in all lowercase letters. Again, it's written as one word, Roblox. ROBLOX. So now we're going to do algorithm. Solve these problems using the algorithm. So I've already set up my algorithm. I stacked my numbers on top, starting with the greatest number. So I'm going to do the math, come right back, and then you're going to check your work and compare it to mine. Go ahead and check your work and compare your rows of numbers and your addition to mine. And the answer should be 1,299,024. Go ahead and check your work. If you've done the algorithm correct, you should have gotten 371,519,824. Lastly, we're going to use the table and number sentence to solve. So we have our key here. We know that 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. We know 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. 1 meter equals 1,000 millimeters, and 1 centimeter equals 1 millimeter. We're going to use this information to help us plug in our answers. Now, just like the strategy we used earlier, we created our table. So you should be creating a table for each problem. So if we have 30 and 4/10 meters, we know that if we multiply this by 1,000, we're going to get 30,400 millimeters. Again, to 24.5 meters, multiply that by 1,000, we're going to get 24,500. We're going to use the same method, drawing a table and a number sentence to solve. So if you haven't done that, pause the video and do that now. Otherwise, check your work. If you notice you've made any mistakes, please go back and revise. Great. So that's all for Math Review today. You're going to now head over to Google Classroom and complete your Math Review exit ticket. Don't forget, if you happen to have missed the secret code, go back and rewind the video and watch it again. If you have any questions, please reach out to your teachers to ask questions and schedule conferences.